Everyone says Versace. It's Versace.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually Versace, not Versace.
Oh, well, Migos said it's like nah.
Welcome to the first episode of the Mukbang interview series. Right now I'm here with Robb, owner and founder of Modest Philly, and also Modest Supper Club. So I'm actually going to have him kind of talk about what we're about to be eating today, since he's the one that kind of made everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, well, we made this in like 20 minutes.
Literally 20 minutes.
We just got some frozen kimchi dumplings here.
I've never tried that actually.
Some ramen, the red packet joints, the Korean joint, and then we got some oyster sauce, Chinese broccoli. That's it.
Cool. Did you do anything special to that, or
nah?
Just fried it, garlic.
Add half a shallot and some minced garlic and oyster sauce. Cool. That's it.
This show is basically going to be about like interviewing artists and like their take on like the world in their area. Since Robb is like a clothing designer, clothing line owner. I thought it would be kind of interesting to kind of pick his brain as far as what's hot right now. I feel like street fashion and like men's fashion right now is like the highest fashion in a sense. Yeah, like would you say that?
I think now is like we're at a point where streetwear and high-end fashion have really merged
like collide
into one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I wouldn't go as far as to say that fashion will always be like that. I think it's just kind of like what's on trend right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you look at the creative directors of these design houses, like Dior and all this, and all these guys come from a streetwear background. Right. Obviously, with Virgil really setting trends. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. This is the first time where Gucci and like Balenciaga and these fashion houses are dropping ready to wear fashion. Right. Usually it's like one-off dresses and statement pieces, but they're really trying to cater to ready to wear consumers.
How do you think like that has changed, like from back in the day, like like women fashion was such a staple. And like as far as like runways and stuff like that, it was always like the dress. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The nice dress, fabrics and stuff like that.
Right.
Now we're transitioning into an era where Supreme can put up a box logo on like a Champions T-shirt and sell it for like $500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how do you think in your perspective, how do you think we got to where we are? And do you think it's a good thing, or do you think we should kind of limit the freedom, or like how do you view that part?
How did we get here?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it really just comes with the rise of streetwear in general. Like, before there wasn't really a foundation laid out. I think like when we were coming up freshman year of high school, like that's kind of the first time I really heard of streetwear. Specifically the hundreds. Shout out to Bobby and Ben. Like that was the first time I heard something like that. And since then, obviously there was brands before that. Stussy, like they're OGs,
like during the 90s and stuff like that. But I'm saying skating.
It wasn't as accessible for whatever reason. Oh, because of social media. That's why. Gotcha. That's why it wasn't as accessible.
So right now, where we're at right now, right? As far as fashion, you would, a lot of the blame has to be because of social media. Because it's fast fashion and also like fast marketing as well. Do you think that has a lot to do with that?
For sure. I mean, now it's like if you're New York based or whatever, LA based, people in wherever can see it. Berlin, Egypt, like anyone can see it now. I think that's really catered to how streetwear has grown exponentially. And like that's why this fashion is always like a reflection of what's happening right now, currently. During war times, there's less material, so the dresses were shorter, right? Because there's less fabric and things like that. And right now, what's popping is streetwear. And to piggyback off of what you said, like menswear being worn by girls, which is also really in now, and that's what it is. Because like you said before, it was always dresses and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, like
that was like the focus.
Right now, it's like that's not the case anymore. So fashion is just changing for what the demand is currently. You know.
Right, because back in the day when we talk about like fashion and stuff, we had this idea where you have to, be able to learn how to sketch dresses and, you know what I mean? Now it's like getting to a point where now it's getting to the point where like, do we even have to have a full college degree to even be a fashion designer? You know what I mean? Based on where the trend is going. Yeah,
and it's hard because, I fall in that category. Like, I'm not trained. I don't know a lot of purists or whatever of fashion. Like, the mandatory is like you need to know how to sew. How can you be a designer if you don't even know how to sew?
Right.
And we live in an age where that's not the case. And listen, and I get that critique, but I think fashion's really turn into something a little bit deeper than that. Now it's just a medium for creatives in general to express themselves, and that's really why I chose fashion, because of that reason. I don't know how to draw or paint, but I've always been fashionable. So this is the medium I've chosen to get messages from me to the public.
And so speaking of like, streetwear and stuff like that, things are definitely more accessible, right? Whether it is online marketing, online print shops and stuff like that. So there's definitely more opportunities for people to just start up their clothing line and stuff like that, as opposed to maybe like 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, the resources are all there, man.
So do you see that as more as like a benefit per se, or something that kind of is like a free for all and people are just doing it just to do it? You know what I mean? Because now you just all you need to have is like an idea, like a graphic, and then just stamp it on a t-shirt, and you can claim that you have a clothing line.
Well, I mean,
so from that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but from that being said, like, what do you think sets a person that is actually a designer versus a person that just slaps graphic on a t-shirt?
I don't know. That's opinionated. Like,
in your perspective, I mean, there's no right answer.
Right.
It's like, your opinion definitely matters because you're in that situation where you are actually very invested. You know what I mean? And like, you think about all these things and how to promote it, and it's deep when it comes down to your clothing line, right? So
facts. I mean, I think what it all comes down to is like the purpose of what you're doing. To me, like, designer is just a label. Like, we live in a world where we have to use language, we have to label things. Like, to me, it's less about being a designer or whatever the title is, and more about how you're trying to contribute to society. And like, that's where I draw the line. Like, it's not so much designer or what, but mainly just artist. Like, what is your purpose? Like, what is the point of it? You know what I mean? Like, is there concepts or like messages you're trying to get to society so that you can impact individuals? And I think that's where I draw the line. I think it's always been kind of less about the clothing and more about the message behind the clothing. And it's always been like that. So yeah, I mean, that kind of sort of answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, there's definitely not the right answer.
Well,
I think it's like perspective based and belief based, right?
Yeah.
So like, kind of like the same question, right? Remember that t-shirt that Drake wore, the finesse t-shirt, but it was like Tennessee. Have you seen that? It's like an orange sweater. You haven't seen
Was it the Miami one that says "I am" or something?
Yeah, something like that. So the designer,
what about that?
So the designer of that whole collection, that's just his thing, right?
Okay.
His whole story is like, he's been struggling. He was homeless, and like right after like they were about to kick him out or whatever, Drake wore his stuff and he kind of blew up, right? His clothing line's called "I Don't Know Yet" or something.
Okay.
And everyone wants to know where Drake got it from, and they're selling the sweater. He's selling the sweater for like $200 a pop, 200, 300 a pop.
And has it always sold that high, or was it after Drake?
No, it's always been that high.
Okay.
And because he like hand does everything.
Okay.
So now, after Drake wore it, these other companies are pretty much jocking like stitch for stitch. You know what I mean? The same design, the same sweater, the same this, that, and the third. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But selling it for way cheaper, for like $24.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So when it comes down to that stuff, and maybe
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, because like especially Forever 21, like they're notorious for doing that stuff, and just copying, pasting it, and maybe producing it like more and making it cheaper. You know what I mean? You already full?
I mean, I haven't ate today. I was waiting. I was putting this shit in my mouth.
So like, how do you feel like about something like that, and like how are you able to like maybe try to avoid situations like that?
So like, when you ask me like about streetwear and how these higher end fashion people are like going that route with everything, like
because they have the capital.
It's because like. I understand the situation. You feel me?
On a business standpoint.
Yeah, like I see why people are doing. Like for example, like Forever 21 knocking off these trends. Like I get it because they're targeting, a certain demographic that has certain X amount of dollars of spending money. You feel me? And like so they can't cop the Balenciaga. That's why you go to Zara. Like I was just there yesterday, right?
They sell shoes exactly like
everything's the same because no one can afford the Balenciaga. So I understand that's why they're trying to fill a void. Feel me? But like, do I agree with it? No. Like that's lame, especially like when it's like an undiscovered talent. Now that's different. Like if you knock off Balenciaga, like I don't know if you're even cutting into like their margin or what, right? Like does it even affect them? Like they're good regardless, right? But when they knock like an up and coming artist or something like that, now that's different. Like you gotta give those guys credits because they're on the grind,
right?
So I don't know. I feel for those situations a lot more. Yeah. When youngins who are trying to come up, get their shit, copied off of, and it's like Forever 21. Like come on, like Forever, you can do better, or you can cut him a check, right? You feel me? Like I don't know.
And then like since Forever 21 is bigger and they have more capital for marketing. They're kind of like they get credit for that. You know what I mean? As opposed to collaborating with them or even paying homage. Yeah. After you said that one time, you were like, "Yo, is it homage or homage or some shit like that?"
No, homage. Youngins just be saying,
homage. I've never heard that before.
Because it's like Louis Vuitton. Like youngins don't. It's supposed to be like Vuitton or what. You know what I mean? Like that's how you're supposed.
Vuitton.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's the same thing as Versace. It's everyone says Versace. It's Versace.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually Versace, not Versace.
Oh, well, Migos said it's like nah. All those hustlers out there who like. Or putting that mentality towards things that aren't as productive or illegal half the time. Like now you have a chance to do something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all the same.
I agree. All right, man. Well, that's episode 1 of the Mukbang interview. I don't even know what I'm going to call this. But tune in next time. I don't know who I'm going to interview next. But this was dope, bro.
As long as there's food, you know what I mean? I'm there.
So, yeah, thanks for watching.